In this video, we'll learn how to build a Web3 Dapp decentralized application. Part 3, following along hashlips NFT YouTube channel tutorial. Forgive me, I wrote a new intro there for anybody, returning subscribers. We do it live around here, so we kind of roll with the punches each episode, get a little better with the intro. More specifically, we're going to be building a gallery-based demo that allows you to view a number of different collections. This is part 3 to reiterate. And without squirrel ado, let's get it rolling. My name is Malo, and I'll be your host for today's episode of BitmonkeyTV's Tech Tip Tuesday. Let's get into it. Realizing I forgot background music and everything. Sorry about that. We'll fix this. How's everyone doing today? Yo. I see some comments. Good evening, Luke. What's up, Jonathan? Zen, the real OGs. Appreciate you guys. Happy Tuesday, right? Yeah. Now, if you're not already subscribed to BitmonkeyTV, you can just type bitmonkey.tv into your browser. Navigate. God, I love the connection today, eh? Navigate down, you'll see this big red button. Would really appreciate a subscribe, a share, hit that bell for the notifications. Yeah, thank you for watching. Now, without squirrel ado, you should have audio. Let me know if for some reason you can't hear the audio, but we'll get started.
Channel. We are looking at part 3 of building this gallery collection Dapp, eventually looking like this.
I will pause this for a moment. And squirrel. Tomorrow. It was going to be a surprise. Probably do one before or after the gift goat unboxing. Yeah. Yes, sir. Good evening. All right. Without squirrel ado, no more interruptions. I mean, feel free to chat, but I promise I will refrain from pausing. And we'll follow along this demo here.
In the previous video, part 2, we actually finished the header section. So if you want to follow along, follow this video tutorial series. It's in a playlist. And this is part 3, where we will be looking at connecting and interacting with the smart contract. Okay, so in order for us to understand what we're going to do is let's look at the end result. We've got all of these NFTs over here. And no, they are not living in the same contract. In fact, each one of these NFTs have their own existing smart contract. What this means is later on in the video series, I will actually show you how to read from multiple contracts. But for now, let's take a look at OpenSea of one of these contracts. Here is the time travel artwork. Now, firstly, what we'll need to do is go down and click on an NFT. We are basically finding its address. Once we're in this detail view, scroll down to the details drop down and then click on the contract address. This will take us to Etherscan. Etherscan provides us a way to interact with the contract either by reading or writing to the contract. Let's click here on the contract over there and click on read. Essentially what we want to do in our Dapp is use code to read from this contract, much like we're going to do here. In the read contract section, there's a balance of feature function that you can call, right? And we need to pass it an address. So let's go and open MetaMask, and I'm going to grab my address and paste it in here. As soon as I query this, the balance of will return to us the amount of NFTs that this address owns. In my case, I own 2 of them. Now we can go ahead and use this value Let's say it's 0, then we know that this address doesn't own any of the NFTs. And if it's more than 0, yes, we do. So we can use this value as a truthy or falsy value to check whether someone indeed is an owner of this NFT collection. That being said, to interact with a contract, we need to go to the code section and we need to grab the ABI. If we scroll down, we should see the ABI here at the bottom, and here it is. So what you'll need to do is copy this entire segment. Basically, an ABI is the blueprint of a contract, and it tells us what functions, methods, and kind of things we can call on it. So, having this blueprint ready, let's go back to our project. This is exactly where we left off the last time, so if you are a bit lost, please watch the previous videos in this playlist. However, what we're going to do now is right click on Source, New Folder, and create a folder called ABI. Then create a new file in that folder and call it abi.json. After doing that, let's paste the entire ABI in here and save the file. Due to the nature of a plugin called Prettier that I have installed, it will restructure the code for me so it will look nice. But it doesn't matter if yours doesn't restructure like this. Just save the file. Now that we have the ABI in the scope of the project, we're ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and close everything apart from the app.js file. So in the app.js file right here at the top, let's go and import our ABI. And I'm simply going to call this the ABI. And we're going to import this from, we have to go back to the ABI folder and find the ABI JSON. Great, now we have the ABI, the blueprint, so to speak, imported in our project. I just want to take a second and mention that although these artworks that we have here all live on different contracts, as you can see here, they all do have the same underlying code structure, meaning that I will be able to use the same ABI for all of these contracts. Your use case might be different, but then you need to import that ABI as well and use it. Generally speaking, all NFT contracts should have the balance of feature, so you should be good with this ABI. Okay, so now back in the code, we would need to set up a provider. This we're going to do using the MetaMask as our provider and creating kind of the contract that we can interact with. Now, we need to do this in a smart way because we have a lot of kind of NFTs and different contracts to read through. So we'll implement this in a function. There are many ways of doing this next step. How I like to do it is create a variable where I save my provider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I need a provider and I need a way to set the provider as well. So I'm going to use a state variable and initialize this to be null. So initially the provider will be null, and now we're going to create one. So just underneath this function, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say const, and I'm going to say this is our temp provider. And this we're going to equal to a new ethers provider. So we're going to search for the providers, and the one that we want is the Web3 provider, which we get to pass in our MetaMask instance, right? Our provider from MetaMask. So we can pass it window.ethereum. Now that we have this, let's go ahead and set our provider to our temp variable over here. And now we should have a provider stored in this variable ready for us to use and creating a contract, whatever the case might be. For the next step, what we're going to do is create a function over here called balance. And this will be an asynchronous function. And in this function, we are going to try and create a contract instance and read the balance of function on the contract and return the results. Our first step will be to create a contract, and we're going to use the ethers library to do this. So new ethers.contract. And what does it need? So if we hover over here, we can see that we need the address, we need an ABI, and a provider. For the address, we can go back to the contract here on Etherscan, copy the contract address, go back and paste it. Then we can simply pass the ABI variable because we have it here at the top, as well as our provider, which we now have stored over here. And this should give us a contract instance. Okay, so let's go ahead and read the balance. I'm going to create another variable and I'm going to call this temp balance. Now that we have that, we're going to query the contract itself that we've created over here. And we want to call a function on it. And that function is indeed our balance of function. For the balance of, it will need to take in our address. So we have to go back to MetaMask, go and copy our address and put it in here. Now, this function over here is asynchronous, so we will need to wait for it here at the beginning. And once we get the results back, we can simply log this out. Now, we might need to turn this into a string, so you can say to string, otherwise it's a big number. And because I saved, it reformatted, but basically we're going to query the balance of function. It's going to wait, return, and we're going to log it out and see the result. At this point, nothing will happen because it's in a function and we need to call the function. So technically, we can call it here right after we initiate. But what I want to do is just copy this stuff, paste a new button, maybe call this get balance, and in here, call the balance function. Now I'm going to save this, go back to our application, and here's our get balance button. If I right click, inspect, and go to the console, and I now refresh my page, click on get balance, it should give me back the balance of that address. And we can see indeed it is 2. Now we know that we can get the value back of a given contract's balance for an address. We are ready to go. We need to keep in mind that we actually need to do this for all of these NFTs. And if we go back to the code, we can see that currently we've got an address hard-coded for one contract, as well as the address of the person's MetaMask wallet. Let's go and see if we can add some kind of data source, like a list, that we can render through and do this balance count on. Technically, we need some kind of list that's going to store all those NFTs data. So in the source directory, let's go and create a new folder and call it data. In here, I'm going to create a new file and maybe call it data.json. And in here, I'm going to create an object with one key, call it list. The list would be an array and an array of objects. Now, here we go. I did this as an example for us to have a look at how this program is going to work. This list is going to consist of multiple of these objects. Each object will have an ID, an address to the contract, a name, a type, owner, a link, and account. Each one of these objects will now correspond to basically an NFT. Now, you might notice that there's no image key, and the reason is I've made the decision to pull the images rather locally in here than from IPFS or an online source. The reason is IPFS is sometimes a bit slow, and I want this application to be fast. So if I already know how the image of that NFT is going to look like, I might as well include it here. And we will make reference to that image based on the ID and the type. In this folder, I've got all the images of the NFTs that I'll be using. Some of them are PNG, some of them are GIF, and that's why we will define them in the data list. For now, I'm going to drag over all my assets to the images folder. Now that I know they are in here, I can now complete my data list. So I took some time to go and fill in this list. Each one of these objects over here represents an NFT and also has a corresponding image in here, whether it's PNG or GIF. The only thing that's important to me is that it corresponds to the ID number. So For this ID1 over here, this object, we have the ID1. It corresponds to the PNG one over here. We've got the token contract address, a name, the type, which is PNG. We have an owner's key initially set to false. This will be dynamically updated as we read through this data and read from the blockchain. The link simply refers to where this will link to on OpenSea, and a counter. This will tell us how many NFTs do we own. Now, this won't automatically happen. This is simply a list of data. So we've got 15 of these objects in total. I'm going to save the file and close it, and also close the assets and the ABI as well as this data. Next, in your app.js file, what we're going to do is we're going to import that data. We're simply going to call it data, and we're going to import this from data and then the data JSON file. This will be our initial value that set that list that we just created. Then let's go ahead and create a state variable, and let's call this NFTs and set NFTs. This is going to be equal to the use state hook. And initially we are going to set this to the data that we have imported over here. So NFTs over there should technically be this list, but let's verify this and log it to the console. As a quick test, what we can do down here in the use effect, we can simply console.log our NFTs now. But remember, we have a list object because we said it's a list that we've specified here in the data as list. So we have to say nfts.list, save this, and let's go to our application and see the list over here. Perfect. Now that we know that we've got a list, we can probably start rendering it out on the screen. So I want to set up that first before we make the connection and update the data live talking to the blockchain. So firstly, what we need to do is create a main area in here. What I'm going to do first is just clean this up a little bit. I'm going to take the console.log out there as well as here. And for now, let's get rid of this button. Instead, we're going to create a div, and this is going to be our main kind of div. So a class name of main would be sufficient. And then in this div, we're going to put that list of NFTs. While we are here, let's go ahead and style this div. Go to the app.css file. Let's create a class main. And in here, let's start off with the display being flex. We need to put a flex wrap on because we're going to be wrapping the cards. The alignment of the items can be center. Justify content can also be center. Then we're going to make sure that this flexes as 1. For the padding, we can probably add how about 10 pixels padding. And then just to make sure at the top, we give a bit more space, we can add 15 pixels. Now that we have the main style, we can move on to rendering our list of NFTs. So we're going to use the map to map over our NFTs. And in here, we'll specify NFT as well as our index. Then we're going to give it an anonymous function, and map needs to return something. So technically for now, what I am going to return is just a div element like so. To see this have an effect, what we can do is firstly, we need to add a key, and our key would be the index that we have up here. And then inside of this div, let's just create a p tag. For now, what I'm going to render is the nft.name, right? But we need to wrap these in curly brackets. We also need to remember that it's not just NFTs, but it's nfts.list.map. So now that we're mapping over the list of NFTs, we're going to grab the name of each one and render it in this main container. So save this, go back, and here we can see all of the names. Degen Dance, YOLO YOLO, Inevitable Intellect, all in this wrapped main container. Next, what we can do is add an image. So let's add an image like so. Let's specify the source. Now, for this source, because we need it to render on the fly, we need to use require. So we're going to require this. And this is going to come from the assets, then images. But at this point, we need this to be very dynamic. As you can remember in the data, we are going to rely on the index as well as the type. Back in app.js, what we can do is instead of using double quotation marks, let's use backticks. Then over here, we're going to use a dollar sign and our brackets. This time saying we want the NFT.id, then dot, again, dollar sign, this time NFT.type. This should give us that dynamic image linking to our assets in here. So let's save this and go back to our app. And yes, we can see all the images, but they are huge. This looks pretty cool. But let's go back and add some styling to actually the image as well as this paragraph tag. In here, we can probably give this a class name of art or NFT text. And over here, let's give this a class name of NFT image. So back in app.css, let's go and do the NFT image. Over here, I think we should give it a width of 120 pixels, as well as a height of 120 pixels. Then maybe we can do a border radius of 5 pixels as well. For the NFT text, we're going to simply, first of all, start off by aligning the text as center. We can do a margin top because this is sitting below the image, so maybe a margin of 10 pixels. And then a font size smaller than our header, so maybe at 14 pixels. That should be fine. So save this, and let's go check them out. The size looks correct, but the placement is kind of off. So let's wrap this and kind of give the card itself a style. So for the card styling, we're going to add a class name. This one we're going to refer to as card. Go to the app.css file, specify the card. And now we're going to involve a bit more technical styling here. For the width, I'm going to make use of the clamp feature in CSS. We're going to say that the minimum should be 120 pixels. Then, all around it should technically be 30 vertical height. It should try and fit in there. And then maximum, we're going to clamp it at 200 pixels. Clamp is a nice way to keep things a bit more responsive. What we're going to do now is add a height to the card, and this is going to be a fixed 200 pixels height. I also want to add some padding. We're going to specify a 2 and 16. Then after that, we need to display this as flex as well. As you can tell, I love using flexbox. The flex direction here is going to be column. We're going to align the items center, and we're going to justify the content center. And lastly, let's add a margin of 5 pixels just to give it some space between. Here we go. Let's go ahead now and go and check out the results. Perfect. This is basically the layout of our page. We can see that the cards are nice
Hey
and
everybody, this
responsive,
is Gregory from Dapp
even if we go
University,
into a
and
mobile
today
view and start squishing these around, you can see this is nice and
My bad.
responsive. This is looking fantastic. Well,
It was
we're not so far
cross-referencing.
away from completing this Dapp. The only thing left to do is basically hook up the blockchain part now and do a iterative function so that we can read all the data and display it differently. We'll also add these kind of links as well as make sure that we add the right icons and show you how to build this Dapp. But for now, this is the end of part 3. As we jump back into the code, I'm just going to close these files and just focus on the app.js, and let's minify all these folders as well, setting us up for part 4 coming next. Now, if you enjoyed this content, please leave me a big fat thumbs up, comment below, tell me what your favorite section and which parts you want to learn more about. Apart from
Woo,
that, remember to subscribe
look
for more
at
content like this. And till the next video, cheers for now.
that. Cannot wait to get this hair cleaned up. 31st, dread appointment.
Hey, how's it going, guys? My name's Daniel.
Love it. So, Squirrel, hope you've enjoyed this this episode. Yo, yo, yo. Hey, Gregory. I know Dapp University, right? Yeah. It's gonna be solid. I don't think we're gonna do another episode today. There's a lot of other things I want to get done. But for those watching, I'm curious. I've been considering just streaming live one day a week. And the reason is to free up more time to make more videos. And I was thinking, how do I combine all my themes in one day? And I could just do a long form document, don't know which day of the week it would be yet. It's just a thought that I'm having. I'm going to keep being consistent with the schedule I put out for now. But I'd like some feedback. One day a week, I feel like would be better, in my opinion. The more I think about it. And then from each day of the week, I get 4 or 5 episodes from B-roll content that I could clip apart. And that's 4 or 5 less episodes to timestamp, out the gate, rather than just clipping one. So I'd be curious on your feedback for those who have been consistently tuning into these live streams. How does one day a week sound? Put it in the comments, please do. I'm curious. Just a thought, just kind of exploring, if I act on it, what does that look like? And it frees up more time to make more content. Not going to lie. Yeah, so I actually want to do the editing process. So that's been a shift here is me wanting to create more videos and to do more post-production. It started off as a channel with minimal post-production. That's how it's always been. But I still love the long form. I love the live streaming. I love that family feeling night. And I feel like one day a week, it would essentially be streaming for 5 to 7 hours would be like my vision, right? I would start off with different segments. I'd have the NFT news segment, NFT focus segment, interview Web3 focus segment, blockchain gaming segment, and then a tech tip segment. And then from there, it's one long form piece of content that we just take little breaks in between each segment. And I don't know. It's a thought. So I wanted to put it out there for those watching this live and for those watching the recording. Please do put your comments in the live stream. But more importantly, after the video is over, leave your 2 cents into what you think about that. Would you be more interested in making sure you make it every week rather than having 2 different times a week to choose from? That's really the question I'm asking you. We're building this thing together. Appreciate you for being here. Today's POAP, secret word hashlips, is the GOAT part 3. Seems appropriate. Let me go enable that channel. You already know what to do. And for anybody who tunes in and doesn't comment and then requests a POAP, I've said it early on, that does disqualify you. And I think we've been handing them out anyway. So moving forward, please be mindful. You have to engage. So if I see you requesting a POAP and you're not engaging, well, that's going to be X pretty soon. You're going to see why. I'm working on a new script to talk about BitmonkeyTV POAPs, to go in depth about what they are, how to get them, how to qualify, and then to announce a few prizes that are going to be up for grabs. So working on that video as we speak. So as soon as it's ready, I'll post it, and that won't be a live stream on that one. That's, you know, this intent of more post-production. So, you know, around here, our mission is to give. It's to guide, impact, voice, and educate, to create the most utilized library of Web3 content. So that's at the top of my thinking right now. And it has been for a couple weeks, couple months on the road since I made that decision of what this is to me, you know. And what BitmonkeyTV is it's not a branch of anything. It is going to branch off, but it's going to be the center of everything I do. So I'm getting very serious about it. So this ask is more, you know, from my perspective, it frees up time on those days, but it would also be very fun. I don't know. I'm kind of digging just one day a week. So please drop a note in the comments. Ramble off. And thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, Luke, Mr. I would post a few hours after the stream. Oh, I need to open up that channel, huh? Or did we already open that up? I squirreled off into a ramble / thought that I needed to share. Yeah, we're good. That channel will be open today until 5:20. So in about 16 minutes for the POAPs. Appreciate you, man. I appreciate you so much. No one took away your permissions. All right. With that, without squirrel ado, my name is Malo. Thank you so much for watching another episode of BitMonkey TV's Tech Tip Tuesday. If you found any value at all, please do hit that like, subscribe, share this with your friends. And if you didn't know, you can clip YouTube videos that aren't yours. So if you saw something you liked that you want to share with your audience, don't forget you can clip it. Don't forget to tag me so I can see it. Much love. Thank you so much. Till next time. Peace.